This is brought to you by Cricket 8. They are a new player in the game trying to educate fans on what is really happening in cricket. We have a partnership with them where we host live watch-alongs, do podcasts, and write articles. If you want to know what is really happening with our game, visit cricket8.com. If you make any content, Minvo Pro is the tool for you. Take your long format content and cut it and slice it for social media. This AI-inspired weapon will turn your one piece of work into so many clips. Try Minvo.pro now. Welcome to the Scoreboard. I'm Jared Kimber. Morning, everyone. And, let's go through the games, shall we? Because I think there's some decent questions to be had. You know, Rajasthan looked more likely to win the tournament by winning a game that, let's be honest, they didn't play their best in. Lucknow probably feels like they had that game and let it go. We'll get to more about that. Have DC lucked into a good team? And isn't it nice to actually have Hardik back in form when it's probably too late and doesn't matter all that much? But let's just go through the Lucknow game very quickly. They obviously lost 2 for Dot. And then KL did well with intent, but he couldn't go on. And I think there's going to be some people who look at the scoreboard there and go, oh, it's another KL innings. I actually thought he did everything right. The problem was that quite clearly the ball got hard to hit boundaries with later on in their innings. And they could do it. But you have to give credit to Rajasthan as well. Sandeep Sharma especially. But I thought Ashwin bowled really well, except for the 5 wides down the leg side, the full toss down the leg side. But it certainly got them back in the game. But it was still going to be a tricky chase. It wasn't as straightforward as probably the game ended up making it look. But Sanju Samson took complete control with the bat. And really, after the other 3 guys had all gone out over attacking, he just stayed in. And that was enough to get them very, very close. I think the biggest question I have, though, is Ravi Bishnoi. Was he at the ground the whole time? Do they realize that they can bowl their best bowler? I know he hasn't been in great form, but you look at that bowling lineup and you go, they're probably going to have to take a couple of wickets here. Yash Thakur, I suppose, can take wickets, but the most logical guy to take 1 or 2 quick wickets and peg them back was going to be Bishnoi, and they didn't use him. And then he came on suddenly, the 15th or 16th over? It was a bizarre set of circumstances, but I really want to highlight Dhruv Jurel. When he came in, I actually thought they might go Ashwin as a pinch hitter and try something a little bit different. And they did not do that at all. And they went with Dhruv Jurel. And he was, I want to say he was about 8 off 11 at one stage. And then he completely came good. It was a fantastic innings at the end. I really liked the way he went about it. And what I liked about him and Sampson together, and this is another reason why I think they're a good chance of winning, is it was sensible batting with intent. Right? They were still looking for boundaries, but they weren't taking unnecessary risks. They were looking at scoring at around 12 runs per over. And then, to be honest, that is when Delhi's bowling fell down. Lucknow's bowling fell down, which is fair enough. It's a decent bowling attack, but it's not absolutely fantastic. And, eventually the pressure was too much for them. Very important win for Rajasthan. That's what good teams do. They win when they're not quite at their best. And Dhruv Jurel is also... I think if we put Riyan Parag in the Rajasthan Circle of Trust, that means they go from 4 batters to 5 batters in the Circle of Trust. And then it's really up to Rodman Powell and Dhruv Jurel to step up. Well, the last couple of games, Rodman Powell has helped win a game by coming in and whacking a bunch of sixes. And then we saw today Dhruv play a really good innings. There's still issues with this side, but they also look clearly like the best side in the competition. Let's get on to Delhi. It really is hilarious watching Fraser McGurk bat. The big McGurkin is just all over the shop, isn't he? There's a ball from Hardik Pandya where it looked like it was just a wide Yorker, and somehow he managed to ease it over long off for 6. The power, the timing. I think early in this tournament, me and Bayram were doing a podcast going, yeah, he gets in the Australian squad maybe, but how's he going to get in the side? And you look at it now going, how could he not be in the side? It is absolutely ridiculous. Everyone else got a bit of a start and looked in, was handy enough. They probably didn't quite kick on the way that they wanted to, considering the start and everything else. But everyone got into double figures. This is kind of how they would have assumed the team would have worked at the start of the season, is my guess. It's also worth mentioning Bumrah here again, just for how ridiculous he is. He went for runs early on, and I think this is probably for him a poorer bowling game, and he still came back incredibly strong. And Piyush Chawla, who has struggled a little bit this year, but I thought he bowled quite well. In the chase, they lost early wickets, and it was really the Tilak Varma, Hardik Pandya partnership that got them back in it. Really great signs that Hardik Pandya looks like Hardik Pandya again. If I'm an Indian fan, I don't, rather than a Mumbai Indian fan, I am very, very excited by that. Sanjay Mandrake dropped him the other day from his squad. That innings today makes it a lot harder to drop him. And Tilak Varma probably got a little bit stuck at times, but still kept them within distance. There are a couple of interesting things here. Kuldeep getting hit, which I thought was definitely worth noting. Tim David playing very, very good at the end, and then sort of shielding him from the spin. But the man that probably should get the most credit, well, not the most, him and Fraser McGurk should get the most credit in this game, was Rafiq Salam. It's the second time I've seen him bowl recently. I can't remember if I've ever seen him bowl before, but there's the only 2 times I remember him ever bowling in his life. He's short and he has a good Yorker. That combination is always very handy. He has a great back of the hand slower ball. I think he's going to go for runs. I don't think he's ever going to be a low economy guy, but I can see how he can be a regular wicket taker. And if you were watching live on the watch along on Cricket 8, the minute he came on, I said, I think he'll get wickets here. And there's just something about his bowling at this stage in his development that just looks like he's the sort of guy that is going to get some poles. So worth keeping an eye on him. Let's get to the scoreboard part of the show. If you want to ask a super chat, feel free. And we will get to them at the end. But let us go through everything that we have here. This is Rajasthan's runs per over by phase today. Just, I talked about it before. This is when Dhruv Jurel really took over. I think him and Samson's figures probably look similar, but I really thought it was Dhruv Jurel that was the driver in that. And it makes sense. Samson is kind of their anchor, a fairly fast-scoring anchor, but more of an anchor player in that lineup. But I thought, Dhruv taking over here, and this is completely where they won that game. And it came after losing 3 wickets and batting slow and everything else. Lucknow were in front, right? And so it was a huge effort to come back from there. This is the batter strike rate today. As I said, he's ended up with a strike rate of 152, and he's ended up with a strike rate of 200. But I think a lot of that damage was done by Samson at the end. But I don't want to take it away from him because what I like about him compared to some other players, I think in that same position, they would have allowed the chase to get out of hand. And I thought they had 2 bites of the cherry in that chase. They could knock it off at the front, which is what they tried to do with the 3 hitters. Didn't quite work for them. And then I thought what they'd do is they would take it very, very deep, get it to about 55 off 20, which they could do without losing any more wickets than 3, and then allow Shimron Hetmeyer and Robin Power to hit some sixes at the end if they needed it, right? And if the set batters didn't do the job themselves. The batting that these two managed to do just completely changed that, so much so that they've ended up winning quite easily early on. You have to credit both those players by that. And just have a look at Samson. So he struck at 122 after the power play. He struck at 2 runs a ball in that 12 to 16 period, and then at 3 runs a ball at the end. It's fantastic. It's exactly what you want to see. We haven't seen a lot of rebuilding, but it was smart rebuilding. There was an over where I thought, they're going to go a bit slow here. And they didn't. They kept looking for boundaries. They kept putting the pressure back on. And this is Samson's true value. We could see here, he's not particularly good when the ball is new and hard and he has to go in the power play, which for number 3 is a bit of an issue, right? But he's so exceptional at that period afterwards. This is excluding today, so his true strike rate will certainly pop down a little bit after today. Just because he did go a little bit slower. But his true average of plus 60, he doesn't go out in that early part. And then you can see if he gets to the death, he's still plus 20 on strike rate. This is the only area that he usually struggles in this tournament so far, and that's going to go up today as well. Fantastic batting. It's an interesting one, isn't it, Stoinis? When he came on, I thought, this could be nasty. With Jaiswal set, and instead he got Jaiswal straight away, again with one of those short balls, as only he can. This is a bit of a mess. They used Henry well. I thought they waited a little bit too long to sort of bring Krunal into the game. They brought Mishra on ahead of Bishnoi. It worked. He got a wicket. it just looked like a little bit of a mess today, like they weren't quite sure what to do. I'm not going to hang them out for this one because I've seen Stoinis take a wicket in one over and then still go for 20 runs in his next over. But when you do that, you have to back it up with sound decisions. Leaving your best bowler to bowl one over in the 16th is not a sound decision. This is Bishnoi's values versus right hand and left hand. So you can see here that when he bowls to left-handers, he's basically a par bowler. Right-handers, I should say. He's basically a par bowler. It gets slightly less wickets than you would want. So I think against right-handers, he's a good defensive option. And against left-handers, he's a good attacking option. That's because despite the fact he's a right-arm wrist spinner, he actually spins the ball away from left-handers more than he does right-handers. There were 2 right-handers on today. They had Amit Mishra. I get that tactic. I don't understand then why you wouldn't just give him an over anyway, because he's still a par bowler when it comes to economy. If he was here, completely understand it, right? But he can bowl to right-handers without any issue at all. So I do think that was a bit of a mistake today. And if you knew there was going to be that many right-handers in the opposition's lineup, is it worth just not playing him and picking an off spinner? A left-arm finger spinner, another one. I don't know. And this is Mishra and Bishnoi's true values versus right hand and left hand. So you can see here that Mishra is a very good bowler against right-handers. I've got no problem with Mishra bowling, as I said before. And this shows it to you. You can see that Mishra's figures against right hand and left hand are very, very similar over his career. He's probably not the kind of bowler now that can do well against left-handers anymore. But you can see how Bishnoi is a bit more of a specialist. Having said that, Mishra's figures are of one of the best wrist spinners we've ever had in this tournament. What's that? It's almost 200 wickets. It always amazes me how good his record is when I go back and look at it overall. Let's have a look at Lucknow. So 7-11. I think I might have mentioned this in the intro, but I think if people look at KL Rahul's score and the fact that Rajasthan have ended up chasing it easily, they will probably lay the blame back on him today. And I've laid a lot of blame on him when it comes to strike rates before. Today, I would say that he showed really good intent in this period. This is a phenomenal strike rate to have, but they didn't kick on, right? And he is obviously partly to blame for that, but they just didn't kick on. And at this stage, they were probably red-hot favourites to win that game. And by the end, they were marginally in front. By the end of the innings, they were marginally in front. Really, they didn't lose a lot of wickets, and to end up at 10, scoring at 10s at the end, I think the ball did go a little bit flat for them, and these things happen, but it wasn't ideal. Quinton de Kock didn't last long, so you could throw that one away. But you can see here, Huda and KL went at this rate. The interesting thing I thought was KL was outscoring Huda for a long time, who struggled and then batted really, really well, but they'll be happy to get the runs. This was an issue. He got himself in and then couldn't get away. I thought Badoni was clever, but he lacks the power, but I love his improvisation. And Krunal couldn't get one away. Him not kicking on, him not kicking on, him not kicking on, and these two. It's 5 guys, really, that were all in. I think they're all in. Yeah, they all probably faced 5 to 10 balls, and no one really went to that sort of upper level, which that extra 15 runs, maybe, is a big difference between them winning and losing that game. And we've got the full KL strike rate. So here I do have an issue with him. And I'll be honest, I was absolutely shocked when he did this because it just didn't feel like a very him thing to do. You can see he was still scoring pretty well at this point. I don't think anyone has any issue there. Even if the team scored a lot slower, he was carrying that strike rate. And then probably didn't face a great deal of balls at the end. But you can see it does fade off a little bit. I mean, that's his strike rate. And that is also the team's in some ways, right? Where are we here? We could see his true ratio. So we know he's an under par scorer in the power play this season, but he's averaging 18 more. So that, from an anchor, he's at least doing one part of the job, and he's not massively behind. But this is really interesting because he's averaging plus 12 here at a strike rate of plus 15. I think that means that he's worked out he's got to have more intent. The issue is with him, he's not really kicked on, and we have seen him do that in other years. But a true strike rate of negative 30 from overs 12 to 16 is a bit of an issue. Rajasthan bowlers today. I thought Sandeep was fantastic. I mentioned him in the intro as well. I loved the control he has. I like that they're using him as a top and tail bowler now because I love that they used him as a death bowler, but we know he can bowl up front. He looks really confident. I love the variations he was using at the end and his Yorker and his accuracy and everything. I think I had a bet on Rajasthan when they got out to 270, 280 in that innings based on the fact that he had overs left. Like, that's the kind of thing you do with Kuldeep or Bumrah. To put Sandeep in that level, I think is really, really important. And the other thing that I think they'll be happy with today is that, well, not happy with, but they've won a game where their bowling lineup have mostly gone at 10s. I think that's a really important thing for them to be able to win. This is economy rate progression today. You can see all the way through just how well he managed to do that. You expect there to be a bit of a spike at the end, and he still managed to keep that down. This is his true values by phase this year. And this was what I was saying. It felt earlier in the year they weren't as interested in using him. This must be overs, is it? Or balls? Oh, this is balls. So they weren't as interested in using him in the power play. I think we'll see him get used more there. I love the idea of him and Trent bowling in the power play. It's Avesh Khan, who I think is probably a better middle overs bowler. They can always give him one in the power play, and they can always give Ashwin one in the power play as well. But you can see how brilliant he's been at the death this year. Of his true wickets +3. It's not from a huge amount of balls. This wasn't including today, of course. But you can see so far he's been absolutely brilliant, and he's bowled well in the middle as well. I just don't think you need to bowl him in the middle. But you can see these true economy rates are all absolutely off the chart. This is 0. He is +3 runs and over better than a bowler, +7 runs and over better than a bowler, and +4.5 runs and over better than a bowler. And this is before today. Pretty handy. Let's get to Delhi, Mumbai. You can see here, if I do it, the Fraser McGurkin. We might have to start calling that. Delhi are going to have a situation where, because they don't have the greatest death batting, they might have a lot of situations where they score the most of their runs at the top. But what another phenomenal innings. Has he already got the world record for the quickest white ball 100, which was for South Australia. Should have been for Victoria, but that's a whole different conversation. Looked like he was on for a chance of breaking a couple more records at times again today. Also, liked periods, though. I know this is going to sound weird, where he got a good ball and he tapped it for one. I reckon there were 3 times when he did that. That is the difference between a slogger who is doing very, very well and a guy who is thinking about what he's doing. Absolutely fantastic. And just gives them such a weapon at the top. Who knows how long they can ride it, but his ability to give them these kinds of starts. And isn't it incredible that they came into this tournament with Warner and Prithvi Shaw as their openers, and now they've got Abhishek Paul and Fraser McGurk. I think Fraser and Prithvi Shaw is a better partnership because I think Abhishek can bat deeper for them and gives them incredible flexibility. But it doesn't really matter who you are. He was just tapping the ball today. His strike rate will look bad because he was just trying to get the other dude on strike because he was striking at 3 runs a ball. Ridiculous. This is the innings I was really impressed with. A bit shocked that Shai Hope came in. But if you don't know, Shai Hope is a fantastic player when the ball is spinning away. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was a couple of options today, or at least one. Did they have 2 spinners? I'm trying to think. There was one spinner. Must have been, was it Khan Sharma? No, not Khan Sharma. Oh, God, I've forgotten. Rahul Chahar. No. Who's Mumbai's leg spinner was bowling today? My God. There's so many leg spinners that are kind of in this big pool at the moment that I'm getting them all mixed up. But he came on today, and I thought Shai Hope did really, really well to maximise that. It just shows you that for how many years Shai Hope's just been knocking the ball on its head when realistically he can do this to spin. And if he can keep doing this to spin, he's a very valuable player in the IPL. We know he's going to regress occasionally and go to that blocking mode. He can't help himself, but when he goes, he goes. This is the bit that really let them down. It was a good innings by Pant. And Stubbs eventually got some runs after a slow start. And actually, I did find there isn't an issue here. It's just that they didn't get the big kick at the end, right? That they probably deserved, being that, these 2 guys had set them up so well. They just would have liked if one of these guys had gone ballistic as well. But sometimes that happens. And I think you just have to kind of accept that sometimes it's easier to hit early on, or that your guys will come in the end. We've seen Andre Russell sometimes and Heinrich Klaassen sometimes come in with the same sort of template set for them, and they just can't hit. But just from their perspective, they would have liked that. That game would have been completely won if one of these guys had gone nuts. And Stubbs did, but it was after he chewed up a lot of balls to get there. Most runs versus Bumrah in a power play over in the IPL. So I had a look at it. I think it was the equal third most runs that Bumrah had ever done. Actually, it might have been fourth most runs he'd ever released in the power play. So I'm glad I wasn't the only one looking for that. Incredible that JP Duminy is on this list. This is a bizarre list, right? You've got JP Duminy, Rahul Tripathi, who's not currently in the IPL, Riddiman Saha, who's a fringe player as well. So both these guys are fringe players. And Dwayne Smith, who, I mean, God, how many years ago was that going on? This is Fraser McGurk's strike rate progression today. Ridiculous. 4 off the first ball, 4 off the second ball, and then he started going with sixes. It's the consistency, right? He's not going to stop. What's that song from Magnolia? It's not going to stop. Which you could play that with Fraser McGurk batting. It's just going to keep coming. What will he do if he ever works out how to bat 50 balls in a game? Mumbai's bowling economy rate today. I talked about Piyush Chawla bowling well today, I think. Oh, was it Chawla I was talking about before? I think maybe that's what I meant with Shai Hope. But he went after Mohammad Nabi as well. This is a real issue because they keep going back to this and it's not working. Thushara, he looked like someone bowling today without any confidence. Hardik got smashed again. I thought Mohammad Nabi held his own. Piyush Chawla bowled well. 8.75 and Bumrah got absolutely hammered in the first over. Ridiculous. This is the most expensive spells in IPL history. Reece Topley versus the Sunrisers. You've got Mohit earlier this season. So that's 2 this season. And this is the 3rd one this season. And 2 of them have been against Delhi. So a lot of this is obviously Fraser McGurk at times as well. But what I really like about what Delhi are doing is when they find a matchup they think is in their favour, they go for it. And Luke Wood just looked like bantha fodder today. It just did not look like it was ever going to go. And this is Bumrah's actual economy. What's this? This is actual economy versus expected economy from overs 20 this year. So he's gone at 7.2 runs. And the expected economy in the overs he has bowled is 11.42. As Rob Barron says on Cricket 8, he's basically twice as good as any other bowler. And let's just have a look at this so you can see that no one can hit him for sixes. I think I got this wrong with one of the graphics we did yesterday. I apologise. So with singles, so you can see at the top here, with singles, if you are 1.25, that means you have 24% less singles than anyone else. So that's a positive. And everywhere else, it's exactly the same. They're all positives if they're out and negatives if they're in, is the best way of explaining it. Now I've realised I've confused myself more. So you can see that Bumrah just does not get hit for sixes. That is a ridiculous record for any bowler. You cannot hit him for 6 at all. He's better with 4s as well. The only thing that people do against him is hit singles. He goes for 6% more singles than everything else, but there is no other way that you can score off him at all. Incredible. That's it for the... Oh. No, it's not it. It's not it. Sorry, I've got a few more. This is Mumbai's runs per over by faces today. You can see that they got better as they went through. It's just they were chasing a lot of runs, right? They just got a little bit stuck. Hardik until it got them back in the game, but they lost a few too many wickets. They went a little bit slower than they needed to, but they probably had themselves within touching distance of what was a ridiculous chase. I don't want to be too harsh on them at all. And maybe you look at this progression and you say, they never went at less than 10 and over for any period. They gave themselves a really good chance of getting there in the end. Well done to Luke Wood at the end for slapping things everywhere. But you look at this, you got 2 runs a ball, basically 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 2 runs a ball. All right? A lot of guys put them in a good position, and Chawla and Luke Wood at the end did some really good hitting. And Nabi was, what was he? He hit a 6 as well in his brief innings. I thought they gave this a good go, considering they lost these guys early. Right? If you lose your 2 openers early, you manage to do that. This line that we're looking at here is what this team is set up to do. Whack it at 2 runs a ball with so many guys. it was just the fact that today that too many runs came from their bowlers, and they lost a few too many wickets. This is the bit I'm talking about, Tilak getting stuck. He was 10 off 10, right? Now, he very quickly got that up, but you can see he gets stuck again. He eventually gets that up, but he has to go on and win the game at that point. And because he didn't do that, it did cost them a little bit. Now, they still could have won the game. And he gave them a chance of being within touching distance. But you can see from this, it wasn't the ideal way of going about it. And this is standard deviation from a mean. We talked about him being the most consistent player. There's an article that we did where we talked about it recently. Even more consistent in some ways than Sai Sudarshan. It's ridiculous how consistent he is compared to an average player on a different level. And you can see here, Jadeja, Dravid, JP Duminy, Tendulkar, these are all elite, consistent level players, and he's on a different level from them. His ability to score between 20 and 60 almost every innings. And I'd say he's been a little bit less consistent this year, but he certainly dragged that back again today. And we have the DC bowlers economy rates today. I talked about him at the top. I love the back of the hand slower ball. I like his height. I like his accuracy. I like his energy. He's going to go for runs sometimes. I think we have to do that. But if he's worked out a way to be like the bargain basement Mohit Sharma, and he's bowling better than Mohit Sharma at the moment, that's a hell of a player to find, right? You've got to be happy with that. I thought he bowled well at times, Lizard, today, but just altogether wasn't there. But this is the one I'm shocked at. Kuldeep. They really went after Kuldeep today, and he didn't look like he had any answers. He bowled some really bad balls as well. And here we go. His economy all the way through, up at 8.5. Really was the reason they won this game. Oh, we've got a couple of missed super chats from yesterday. Just to let you know, to the two people who sent these in, they didn't come up at all. So you guys saw them on YouTube, but we were on StreamYard and they never came up. So just apologies for that. StreamYard sometimes does that. Sand says, do you think this is bad for the game? I think it's just batters being smarter and more confident. Good bowlers will still do well, like Narayan did today. You could say the same of Bumrah today. We saw some good bowling. The overall runs are going to go up. It's a bit like saying if there's more goals in football, does that change the quality of the game? And I think a lot of people are looking at it from that way. So I've been saying for ages that the game is going to get more runs scored, and now they're being scored. I can't suddenly say that the game's ruined because I thought that batters are actually underperforming for a long time. And ABCD said, Punjab have been one of the better sides when it comes to picking uncapped Indian players. Jitish, Brar, Ashdeep, Prab Simran, and now Shashank and Ashutosh. It's a really good point. And you can turn your fortune around with that. The issue is if they have fundamental flaws within their side altogether that don't help with that. The other problem is that the mega auctions don't really help you being smart at this sort of stuff. So you're right. I think they have been good, and it's a fair question, but you can see why I'm basically saying it's not helpful overall. Anyway, if you've got any more comments that you want to put through, please do, or any super chats. I'm going to have a quick break here, and we'll be back in a moment with more chats from you in the room. This is the Scoreboard. I'm Jared Kimber, but you knew that already. Sometimes you just need to take the slips out and bowl defensively. And you also need to be careful with your computer's defense as well. If you need a VPN, go Nord. NordVPN.com/Kimber to get a 2-year contract with a discount, plus 4 extra months and gifts in some markets. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. So put in some dot balls and turn them into maidens via NordVPN.com/Kimber. Welcome back, Jared Kimber on the Scoreboard here. Thanks to Cricket 8 and Nord and Raid Shadow Legends, which I think you'll find in the description below, probably. We've got some super chats here, and we've got some normal comments as well. I can't look in the comments anymore, but if anyone wants to put any more super chats in, I can probably get to a couple of them. Anurag says, and thank you for the big super chat again, Anurag. Rajasthan making a mistake here, having so little game time, giving so little game time to Hetty and Robin Powell. Combined, both have faced 9 overs so far in the season. I feel like they'll end up in a situation where Rajasthan will need them in a knockout and they may not be ready. Look, this is always true. If they get so far ahead of the game, though, they can probably put those guys up later on in the season and give them a chance. You can't complain that Rian Parag and Dhruv Jurel are batting well, though, because the whole batting lineup looks better now. I don't think it's a problem for Hetmeyer because he's well established and he's used to this. And if you need him in a big game, I don't have any issue with him. Rodman is not as automatic. I think Rodman is a bit more of a form player. So I think getting towards the end of the season, you know, maybe a couple of times you just put Rodman in around the 12th, 13th over mark. He's not a liability. He might not be a great player of spin, but he's much better against spin than he used to be. But yeah, you probably have to think of those things. Also, you might want Jaiswal or Rian Parag or I don't know, who else have they got who can bowl an over or so, to just roll her over, Rodman, to roll her over in a couple of, not crunch moments, but give them some overs just in case something goes to hell in one of the playoff games. I think all those things are things that you would think about. They probably won't do that much of it, if we're being honest. ABCD says, well, the BCCI reversed their impact play decision. Well, they add some bowler-friendly rules to level the playing field. But they did. They brought in the second bouncer, which is going to bring in more wickets. It might also bring more runs, but it will go both ways. I've already explained the super chat from yesterday. So what are the more bowler-friendly rules anyway that we're talking about, realistically? This isn't just an IPL thing. I said the other day that runs are on their way up. It's everywhere. What you're seeing is a big boom in the IPL because of the impact sub. But it isn't just an IPL thing. Players have understood. They play T20 cricket. They play the 100. They realise now that they can score at 2 runs a ball quite easily, right? We have to just get our heads around this. The game has changed in the same way that you watch a basketball game, and if you watched it from 15 or so years ago, people weren't shooting three-pointers. They were scoring 88, 85, 95 points. Now teams score 115, 120 points, right? There are things to mitigate that, but the sport has fundamentally changed. It's not just bad management by cricket boards. San says, so it's intent, pitch, or ground dimensions that help it not being 250 scores at Lucknow Stadium. They changed the pitch. They relayed the surface, I believe, San. So that's a big change. The ground dimensions, I don't know if the ground dimensions are any smaller. The impact sub has helped, and this is a high-scoring tournament. People feel more comfortable to bat quickly, right? So I think all those things have played a part. Noel says, yesterday you talked about substitutions. Won't 10 batters versus 5 bowlers make all-rounders redundant? No, because you would still, if you had Keith Miller or Ben Stokes or Garfield Sobers or whoever, you would still want them, they would still be one of the highest paid players because you have 2 players in one. So now you have 11 batters and you have 6 bowlers. So no, they won't make them redundant. It will get rid of the guys who aren't really all-rounders being all-rounders. Shivam Dubé will never have to bowl an over again, perhaps, right? Marcus Stoinis won't have to bowl that much more anymore. Rian Parag will never have to bowl anymore. That's what that rule will do. But it will be 5 really good bowlers going up against 10 really good batters. I can't see how that's not better. Now, if you want to say, well, cricket is great because sometimes the best bowler in the world bowls to the worst batter in the world, I'm okay with that. I'm not saying that's wrong, right? I can defend both sides of those arguments. But I am sick and tired of watching bowlers who are shit bowl just because we decided a long time ago that we can't have substitutions in our sport. And we're going to need substitutions in our sport anyway because it's become more and more ridiculous with injuries and the way that cricket is currently being played. Plus, we already have substitutions now in the impact sub. If you're going to do it properly. Arjun says, how good will Bumrah's stats look after the tournament ends? I mean, it could be one of the greatest seasons of all time. I know, obviously, myself and Varun and Cheyenne will look at this at the end of the season and see where it comes off and where it goes. But there is absolutely no doubt that we are seeing a special season. And you watch him against Fraser McGurk, and look, everyone gets McGurked one time or another in their life. maybe not. Maybe just these days. And then he came back from that so absolutely incredibly. So it just shows you how good Bumrah is on a wicket that wasn't really made for what he was bowling and the opposition swinging out their butts and they couldn't get anywhere. The next question, which I've now realised I've walked away from the page. Josh says, when Shai Hope is striking at 241, maybe the conditions are slightly imbalanced. This is what I think people really need to remember. Shai Hope has started scoring really, really quickly for a long time now. So Shai Hope in 2020 had a strike rate of 88. In 2019, he had a strike rate of 106. In 2015, he had a strike rate of 92, right? In 2018, he had a strike rate of 146. That's the only year that it was passable until last year when he went back up to 136, and he's at 138 this year, right? What does that tell us? This isn't about the conditions being imbalanced. This is about players realizing that they have to play this way now. Shai Hope wasn't getting jobs, right? But he has a very special skill set that could be very handy in the IPL, which is he's brilliant at hitting sixes, specifically against bowlers who spin the ball away from him, right? So he has been told that is how he's going to make his money. We still know he's going to get stuck sometimes and everything else. And he's not going to go a strike rate of 241. Today was different because he came in after Fraser McGurk and he continued to go for the bowlers. But the point is that it isn't just about impact sub and the IPL. Players are starting to work out that this is what we want. Anaruda says, what would be your squad for India this World Cup? To be honest, I haven't really thought about it that much. I get asked this question all the time. I don't think I have a squad for any team. I'm still in the middle of the IPL. We've got a piece coming out on the batters and a piece coming out on the bowlers on the main channel next week, Anaruda, so it's worth coming over on that. I think there's a lot of questions for the Indian batters. And three and a half weeks ago, I would have had Mohit Sharma down as one of my bowlers. And to be honest, the way he's going at the moment, I wouldn't have. So there's one answer I've given you. Do you have any info about the pitches in the US for the World Cup? Generally, what we have seen is they try and do batting-friendly pitches in the US, which is a very American thing to do, makes sense. And the grounds have been quite small. So flat, small batting pitches of what we've seen. If that's what the ICC is going to go for, I don't know. ICC usually have more pitches that have something for batting or bowling. If you think back, we haven't had many batting-dominant World Cups. So I don't know, but if you're asking me what they usually have over in the US, I would say it's more batting dominated and smaller grounds. Anyway, that's me done for today. Big thanks if you weren't on Cricket 8 today. We've got 2 games again live tomorrow. We've got Munners from Dealt with Cricket. Obviously, we've got Rob Barron back. We had Mark on from Euro the End podcast today, and you missed out on our Ripper today. A couple of things happened. One was that I think we got 3 or 4 bets right in the first over. Of the first game, which was remarkable, and then at the end there was oh my god, I've now forgotten the word. But there was a situation where one bookmaker was offering inflated odds, arbitrage, I think it's called, isn't it? An arbi. That we're offering inflated odds on Lucknow, and so you could bet on other bookies on Rajasthan, and you could bet on Lucknow with this bookie, and you couldn't lose. That it happens very, very rarely, obviously, but I've never had a day so good betting probably in my life. Not since I backed Detroit Pistons at 50-1 quite a few years ago in the NBA, and they went on to win that year. Have I ever had anything like this before? So it was very good. So come over to Cricket 8 tomorrow. It'll be a lot more fun. We do a podcast though, as well, and you can find the Cricket 8 YouTube channel also, which has a bunch of clips and other things that we put up, and podcasts with Nikesh and Mega as well. And thank you to everyone who supported us with the super chats and the normal chats as well. I'll see you again tomorrow. Power list on Monday as well. So plenty to come up. And that's it for me today. And I'll see you again tomorrow after the games. There is no point having talent around you if you don't use it correctly. Every captain knows this. And it is the same of the sport of cricket as when you are trying to win Raid Shadow Legends, which sounds like a new cricket league if we're being honest. The difference is that instead of taking down arrogant openers or massive power hitters, you are fighting the Demon Lord and the Hydra. So if you want to use your leadership smarts from cricket in a new way, sign up to Raid Shadow Legends and participate in their Spring Hunt event where you can win some real life prizes such as gaming consoles, Amazon gift cards with a total value of $10,000 and a lot of other in-game prizes like legendary champions and more. All you've got to do is get Raid using the link in my description, enter in your Raid ID, and join the competition at springhunt.polarium.com. But the heart of any game is its players, which is, again, a little bit like cricket. So Raid is launching its first ever community weeks. It is a super fun 14-day program giving away cool stuff as super hot legendary champion name Chronica Adelian. In case you don't know, she's the one who puts her enemies to sleep. To get her, all you've got to do is log in for 7 days between now and July the 8th.
And the gifts, they don't end there. Use the link in my description or scan my QR code here on the screen and you will get a huge starter pack with an epic champion, Tyrell, and another starter pack after getting to level 25 that includes the epic Rector Druff. I like that name. Rector Druff should be a cricketer, right? And I'm already keeping stats on both of them in case I need to beat you, because you can actually play against me by finding my handle, The Good Jord. And after installing Raid via my link, make sure to use the promo code SPRINGHUMP24 to get silver and more. Who doesn't want silver? So click the link in the description and become the captain of your Raid Shadow League today. And let's take down those demon lords in the death